I'm about to tackle what I believe to be the best Spider-Man adaptation in any of the Spider-Man movies. And that scene is actually from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is largely considered to be one of the worst Spider-Man movies. So let's talk about it. But before we get into that, if you guys are new around the channel, I want to urge you all to subscribe. We're trying to push to 30,000 subscribers. Join the best Spider-Man community in the entire world. I know you won't regret it. With that being said, let's get straight into this. Let's start by looking at the resurgence and love for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man to provide a little bit of context for this scene, and what this scene means to a newer, fresher audience to the character. In 2021, Spider-Man No Way Home brought back Andrew and Tobey's Spider-Man from their respective universes. However, controversially, Andrew's Spider-Man prior to this was met with valid criticism for his films, especially The Amazing Spider-Man 2. We also have to remember that if it wasn't for the poor reception of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, we would have actually never gotten Tom Holland's Spider-Man, so the ramifications of the poor reception of this film had massive shockwaves over not just the Spider-Man franchise, but also the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. Either way, this resurgence in love for Andrew's Peter since the poor reception meant that the fans were going back and revisiting his films more often, and TASM 2 started to see a lot more love, especially from the communities on Twitter and Reddit. A lot of people started calling it underrated, and even some people went as far as to say that it's one of the best Spider-Man films ever made. When challenged about this viewpoint, a few people in the community would rush to TASM 2's defense with one particular scene, and that is the scene where Spider-Man saves the kid from being bullied. And while this scene doesn't save the entire film, it very much does set the Amazing Spider-Man films apart from the rest of Spider-Man media that has come before or since then. And if anything, this scene understands Spider-Man more than any other scene has ever done. Yes, Spider-Man is known for fighting supervillains, he's known for having really complicated love triangles for better or for worse, and he's known for occasionally going to space to fight aliens alongside the Avengers. But the one thing that Spider-Man is at his core is that he's there to protect the little guy. Spider-Man Homecoming sort of tackled this theme with Peter and his character arc, but I don't think it was represented and shown on the big screen as well as it was in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. To kind of explain my point more, I'm going to pull from a recent Spider-Man comic called Spider-Man Shadow of the Green Goblin. Now this is very, very recent. If you have not read it and you want to read it, then spoilers. Also, by the way, I will be reviewing this book next week, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. But I think this story, which is written by JMD Mateus, perfectly exemplifies why Spider-Man should be looking out for the little guy, and why it's so important for the character. Shadow of the Green Goblin takes place around 1 week after the death of Uncle Ben, so Peter is still very fresh in his Spider-Man career. In issue 1, Peter explains how he was always bullied during high school, but he'd always fantasized about standing up to those bullies, and now that he has these spider powers, he's able to do that. And I really do think this theme of Peter standing up to be able to defend himself from the bullies and now looking out for the little guy defending who he once was really fits perfectly and resonates with what TASM 2 did as well. Although TASM 2 is clearly not an adaptation of Shadow of the Green Goblin, the same mentality is there. It's also worthy to note that Shadow of the Green Goblin is written by JMD Mateus, who is labelled as one of the best Spider-Man writers to have ever lived, bringing us stories like Kraven's Last Hunt, which is an instant classic. Also, his run in the Spider-Man books is beloved by many fans. So it's fair to say that JMD Mateus knows what he's doing. And if one of the best Spider-Man writers in history is showing clear parallels to an adaptation, you know that you've done something right. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that this scene in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 understands Spider-Man like no other. This scene really tackles Peter's complex mentality that even though he fights supervillains and deals with extreme obstacles that weigh the fate of the entire world on his shoulders, at the end of the day, he still has time for the little kid that's getting bullied. He still has time for the kid that reminds him of himself all of those years ago. Another story that exemplifies this whole theme really well is of course the kid who collects Spider-Man, arguably one of the most popular Spider-Man stories to have ever been written. This story is about a massive Spider-Man fan who ends up getting diagnosed with terminal cancer. Spider-Man comes to visit him in his final days to fulfill his dream of meeting the Webhead. And actually, now that I think about it, it's really surprising we've never seen this adapted into live action. But it is nice that a similar sort of idea was brought forward for The Amazing Spider-Man Spider-Man 2. These sorts of interactions where Peter is helping out a kid by fixing his windmill that he made in science class, or simply taking him on a swing through New York City, are the best kind of Spider-Man moments in my opinion, because it humanizes the character in a way that not many superheroes can accomplish. This is the one thing that the TASM franchise does really well, despite its flaws. Multiple times has TASM 1 and 2 shown that Peter Parker is just a human being trying to look out for others like him. And if you enjoyed this video, here is another video that you can watch about the Spider-Man movies, my retro review for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1. Thank you very much to the members of the channel, you guys are absolutely awesome. If you do love my content and want to support the channel, consider becoming a member by clicking the join button down below. Thanks for watching, I'll catch you guys in the next video, take care, and peace.